Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. Today I have Rajesh Kumar from Bangalore, which is the IT hub of India. Welcome to the show, Rajesh.
Thank you so much, Belinda. Thanks for having me over.
No, you're welcome. Tell me, do you get called Raj as like a bit of a nickname, or is it just Rajesh? Like, does anyone ever just kind of abbreviate you to Raj, or is that just something that
Oh
I'm?
yeah, a lot of people, a lot of people. So most often than not, people from that are outside of India find it difficult to like get two of these components of my word name going. So they invariably end up abbreviating it to Raj. Easy.
It's like me with B, right? Like Belinda B, anyway, I think it's
Yeah,
a little bit about me. I love to call out a nickname or something when I look at the names, but like I'm respectfully, right? So
yeah.
anyway,
Raj works just fine. Raj works.
yeah,
In fact,
awesome.
Raj is one of those. Raj is one of those. If you're into movies, at least the parts of the world that I grew up in, Raj is probably one of the most popular hero names in
Yeah,
Hindi movies, at least. So
yeah,
it's pretty
a-
cool that way too.
absolutely. Well, Raj, let's go with that because then I can keep
Mhm.
going. And you're the co-founder and CEO of Kalvium, which you established in 2021. This is your third venture, though, as an entrepreneur, and you've been in the
Yes.
entrepreneur space for quite a few years. So
Yep.
I'll keep going, but I want to hand it over to you to share your
Mhm.
journey. And Calvium is an industry integrated BTech in computer science, and it's a program delivered with partnered universities across India. And it's work
Mhm.
integrated learning from year two in AI, data, cyber specializations. But you also
Right.
have Calvium X, which is a talent play where you outsource talent to various organizations. And then you also have Calvium Labs, which is the AI component of the business. You
Right.
also, when I booked in for the pod and asked, when you booked in for the pod and I said to you, what's one unique insight in life leadership and or business? You wrote back and said, I have too many. We can figure out on the call. So, and that you intend to keep it honest and no fluff. Well, this is what this show is all about.
Absolutely.
It's real, authentic, honest, no fluff. So I'm
Totally.
going to hand it over to you to tell us about your journey in life leadership and the business, of course.
Right. So more often than not, when you're asked this question about how did you get started or what's your inspiration to get started, you always invariably end up expecting like a very nice inspirational answer. I'll probably start with the first honest answer as to why is that I got started. I come from a background where academic excellence was important to gain your financial freedom in the parts. Parenting and upbringing was from certain such a background that at least that's the good part about the education system in India. If you really do well academically through your schooling and your college, it truly becomes a passport for your financial freedom. And I come from that. So sorry. I forgot to log off my WhatsApp from my web.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
So that's the background I come from, and for the longest, thanks to whatever upbringing I had, financial freedom was a very important aspect to do well. I think up until like say middle school, I was a pretty average student, and after that, the reality hit that if you really wanted to like say uh, be financially independent, you need to really like get off those topping the charts academically to get into good schools and universities. I graduated from one of the top B schools, went to one of the largest financial service organizations in the world. I worked with Citi for a brief while. I was maxing out on my incentives, quarterly quotas, made like good lot of money. But then again, when it came down to like say, okay, what more sort of a question, that's when this whole idea of like nothing is better is dividends than equity. And then the best form of holding equity is in your own enterprise. And
Mm.
that's my starting journey. More often than not, I mean, early parts of when people would ask me, why did you start? I would say, I want to create a dent in the universe. I want to create impact. Education is the pathway to all of that. But lately I just embraced this true reality about, and I just be honest, that's what it's all about. I mean, you're anyway on borrowed time on this planet. May as well be honest about everything, starting from why you started too. And then that's my origin story. I became an entrepreneur thanks to one of my professors back in the day. He was very instrumental in getting me off this journey. But the honest reality around why did I even start was to like probably make 20x more money than I would have made in a corporate job. It's honestly one.
Yeah. That's a good honesty call out, isn't it? And I've been writing down a few things. You talked about this financial freedom, but you also talked about this we are on borrowed time on the universe, so we need to make the most of it and make the most impact we possibly can, which is by the sounds of things you are doing. What made you come to that? Like, have you always had that like view that we are with on borrowed time in the universe? Did like where did that come from for you?
Yeah, it was almost like 2020. I mean, I think when COVID struck, it was difficult on a variety of levels for a lot of people for very, very different reasons altogether. I was very close to my father-in-law and I lost him. It was almost like a very sudden event. Like the previous evening, we were just chatting about football. They live in the Middle East, and we were just having a video call. They were just chatting with my kids. Everything was great. And 3 a.m. in the morning, my sister-in-law is calling saying that, he's no more. And that was like a really rude shock, saying that, look, you all think that, you got posterity to like say live in figure whatever, and that one moment like really shook me off. And then it's like, okay, maybe it's not like you are here for perpetuity. You're really around for whatever limited window, and we make the most or be honest about everything. That was the first. The more reinforcing thing was 2023 September. I also lost my father again to some brief illness. Both of these people who had a very, very significant influence in my life,
Yeah.
strongly, the parting message was that, you're just around for whatever limited, and this whole thought of limited time on this planet, all the more seriously reinforced. You keep reading a lot of these things about live your life as though you only have next 100 days to live. Uh, Taken to it very, very seriously
Yeah, it's so
ever
true.
since.
It's so true. And I'm so sorry to hear that news, but it sounds like you are making the most of it. And, like we quite often in the world, what's the other saying that what do you want to be remembered for? And it's not just going to work every day, 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 5. And, what do you want to be remembered for? And it's those sorts of things where you kind of have that reality check and you're like, well, I want to be remembered for making impact, positive and impactful change. For example, I'm just saying about that. And here you
And
are.
in fact, just to add on that, in fact, what it also thought, one of the realization is that we always end up wanting to leave a legacy, only to realize that there's just way too many nice, amazing people, and very hard to probably like say leave a mark anyway. So you may as well make the most of today so that you are having that excitement of having lived this moment to the truest and fullest event. You never know what's going to be in the future, right? I mean, more often than not, we also as entrepreneurs think that we are trying to leave a legacy. We're okay, agreed. You want to like build a generational enterprise and everything, but I mean, when you're gone, you're gone. So what's even the point of worrying about what your legacy is going to be? May as well have fun doing what you're doing right now.
It's a really good shout out, actually. It's a really good shout out because you're just like keeping it real. Now I get why you answered that question the way you did and said like we can figure out on the call. I loved it. It was so like loose in the best possible way in terms of it's like let's just keep it honest and no fluff and let's not sweat the small stuff. Here it is. And so, in terms of then starting Calvium, right, in 2021, you've had your
Mhm.
first, almost form of it. Well, you've lost a loved one, and then you've lost another loved one, 2 years into the business. I guess first ignited Calvium to come about? Was it all the learning that you'd had, like, in terms of starting from year two, from children? And then I guess my second question to that is that you started the business in 2021. Entrepreneurialism is, the highs, lows, all the swings, roundabouts, and in-betweens. And you're also facing another piece, like form of adversities, which is your father. Like that would have impacted you, like you are your business at the end of the day. And I understand you're a co-founder. But tell us a bit
Right.
about that.
Sure. So I think the inspiration to start Kalvium was in 2008 when we started the idea of starting my first venture again in the education was again when you're setting out, you're a grad from a top business school, work with a kick-ass big bank and a lot of pedigree, chip on your shoulder sort of a thing. You're sitting down to start, then reality hits that you don't have a lot of money to like say get going. So the only thing you have at your behest is your pedigree and whatever skills that you've got. And my choice of getting into education was again accidental because that's one industry where a lot rides on credibility built over whatever your pedigree is in that sense. So my first venture is again education, where the brief was about helping students who are in their final year of an undergrad, postgrad to prepare for interviews for jobs. We scaled that substantially. My first venture, we worked with about 2,000 colleges, universities across the
Wow.
country, fairly scale, 1,000 plus organization at one point, and so on. So that business gave us a lot of insights in terms of how education in our country works. My second venture was a coding boot camp for enterprises. So enterprises or businesses in India, they would recruit students for early talent or other entry-level jobs. And then they would invest substantial amount of time and effort to train them to be job ready to whatever is the specific job role that they had to do. We were helping the businesses or enterprises to make them job ready. I mean, the whole boot camp. You would have heard about these IT coding boot
Yeah.
camps. There are these 3 month, 6 month workshop based models and so on. That was my second venture. Between these two ventures, we had very, very deep insights into what makes a 7 year journey look like. Somebody who finishes high school, finishes a 4 year undergrad in tech degree, and then the initial 2, 3 years of their journey in their IT job is what we knew. And one thing which kept coming back to us when we were thinking about starting our next, possibly the final venture, my co-founder and I, we're very looking for some really hard problem. I mean, we've probably, like, say, in our first 12 years of entrepreneurship, made whatever financial aspirations that we had, whatever societal recognition that we wanted, the nice car, the fancy house, the international trips, everything was like a ticked off. And we are at a point where we're thinking about building something which will truly like change things for better for all concerned. And when we sat down to, I mean, the Eureka moment was like everybody keeps talking about employability improvement, employability enhancement, the lack of the significant gap between industry and the university academia system and all of those things. And it just occurred to me that 2008, when we started, everybody was talking about the same thing. 2021, people are still talking the same thing. And that's when it occurred to us that it's a problem that probably the industry doesn't want to solve of such. I mean, if for more than a
Yeah.
decade, if the industry keeps talking about why there is this problem, either it's a significant intention issue or a pure capability issue, right? I don't think it's an intention issue. Probably we thought it's more of a capability issue of the stakeholders, and we took it upon us to like say figure out how to fix this gap, so to speak of. So at Kalvium, what we do, we is like we brought the entire 3 year enterprise journey of a student once they graduate into a degree and build a 4 year, sorry,
Bless you.
build a 4 year, thank you, build a 4 year journey which is very, very hands-on. The deep insights that we're working with was, if you just think about it, irrespective of the education setup that you've gone to, as a learner, you would have had to learn things yourself. The
Mm,
professor or the
mm,
teacher would have been able to facilitate it, but the journey is very personal and individual. And with all the chat GPTs of the world coming into the mix, it was so much more possible to like make it very, very
yeah.
personalized, deep, meaningful, and all those. So the entire inspiration was the ongoing perpetual gap, the supposed gap that the degrees are not meaningful. Very hard hitting insight that we, or other statement somebody made in our core team was like, we all went to like best of tech schools, business schools. And if you were to cross your heart and say, you would say that you became what you became despite the system, not because of the system. I mean, the peer group probably made it work for you, not necessarily the teaching learning process inside those four walls of the classroom itself. So we put all of it together, and then we built Caldium, which is a very intentional learning space, meets all the regulatory and the societal norms of an undergrad degree, and everything at its own at the learner's pace in that sense to it. I know it's a lot of jargon that I just packed
No, no,
everything.
no, it makes sense.
Pardon my.
I want to take out the fluff in terms of not that you've just talked about fluff because you absolutely haven't, but in terms of as part of like your journey, do you also teach these students, if you like, about what you were talking about earlier, that we're on borrowed time? Like you're teaching them, you're educating them, you're helping them. Does that play a
So that's
role in what
That's the best part, B. The ecosystem that you've created, people figure things out. I mean, if I want to be something, today, societally, you end up joining a BTech program. I'm still calling it societally because that's just the norm of how it
yeah.
is in the part of the world that we live in. But after once somebody joins, it's up to him or her to like figure out what he or she wants. We've just been able to create an ecosystem or a structure which helps them figure out. And so many of these instances get instrumented where you start appreciating the small nuances. Like, for instance, the most crucial element of success in our program by end of year one is to learn how to be in a team, be professional about things. What matters is like showing up every day, not what you do. What is important is you appreciate integrity. These things are not workshops that we do. These are all very deeply ingrained into the system. And that is what we are proud of. It's not so much about the technical prowess that our students have been able to demonstrate. It's about the professionalism, the attitude that they go. And of course, they're making us proud by doing a lot of really, really cool stuff in the world. They work with biggest of corporations. They work with the earliest of stages. Earliest, they're the first two engineers that's early stage startups get recruited into whole gamut of things. But across all of them, the whole philosophy that all of us. Of course, there's a structure to that and all of those things, thanks to
Yeah.
my amazing team. But what is also important is how do we keep everybody honest about the whole thing. It's very, very deeply ingrained into the DNA of what we do at everything. Radical candor, again, we
Yeah, I
keep
love
reading
it.
about it. Ray Dalio's book Principle and whatnot. I think you don't need like fancy charts on your in your offices to say that you want to be honest. You just have to be honest, is all that it is. And then we make it a point across board.
I agree.
The 3,000 student,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's about putting into action, right? It's that energy, attitude, and behavior, if you ask me. There's nothing worse than seeing shiny values on a wall or whatever, and like you say, then they're just not being followed through within the business. And it sounds like you've got a very interconnected ecosystem versus disconnected, because quite often we see businesses there it might look like from the outside in it's all interconnected and all humming and working, but actually it's completely disconnected. And it starts from the inside out, doesn't it? Because basically you're putting it all
absolutely.
together from the inside and then you're placing all this talent is going out into the big wide world.
Yeah, basically because given all that we are anyway anticipating AI to take up most of the heavy lifting, at least in the tech industry that we are all
Mm.
catering to. I would imagine, and I'm speaking for the rest of my team also, what will matter and what will make it all worthy is if somebody is able to, like, say, really deal with all these complex situations that they are out there going to deal with, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, that the audience and generation that we're dealing with. If you're able to, like, say, truly inspire them to, like, say, deal with their own things in the right manner and righteous manner, I think we would have done a good job. Tech, tools, all of those things will keep coming and going. But I think it's just about inspiring them to be like amazing as people, and that's what I believe we're on to, and hopefully we'll be successful and at
I
scale
love
too.
it. And shining their brightest. Has there ever been a point with Calvium? Because you sound like you've been super successful, but you've been super honest and obviously you've had, like I said, the university. Has there ever been a moment I mean, you've probably had this, you've had this as your third one, right? In terms of your third venture. Have
Mhm.
you ever had moments in business where you've just like, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Like, have you ever
Oh,
had
all the
those?
time,
And do you
all
still
the
have
time,
it
right?
now? Like even like, even though,
Every, of
yeah.
course. So we are potentially convincing universities to part with their most prized possession, which is their degree awarding autonomy and infrastructure. These are all big branch. We work with some of the topmost universities in the country. Uh, they have a reputation, and it will probably be while we are working well within the regulatory construct of doing everything, and we are by abiding by everything. If somebody were to look at it outside in, they will probably look at your top ranked university. Why do you need a third party like Kalvium to like run a program for you? Is what can be construed or perceived as. So starting from convincing every university to partner with us, despite, like, say, the long-standing 15 years of prior experience and equity that they built over all of these years, it's still going to be a challenge. Uh, I'm not even talking about challenge. Okay, if it is not this university, some other university, right? There is always this overhanging threat of somebody might interpret whatever we're doing as, like, say, not within the confines of what the regulatory norms are.
Mm.
I can just throw a spanner and just probably completely, like, say, pull the rug under our feet. We work with businesses. There's always this payables, receivables issue that we deal with all the time. Contracts are great, but it is not honest if it till up until, like, money hits your bank account, right?
Mm.
So there are months together where we, like, really like, okay, paycheck dates are, like, around the corner. What are we gonna do? Do we have to, like, say, dip into our reserves? Those sort of things. Uh, Again, there is always everything is working. As long as it's working, it's good. But today, the tech talent attraction, or rather the placement market, campus placement or employment market, is at an all-time low with all the
Yeah.
flux that's happening. And obviously, while we can educate our students that, the placement markets are like this and that and all those things, but the one question we don't have a definitive answer today is like, but you said there are going to be IT jobs. I signed up because you said so. Uh, as much as we put all those riders conditions, it's still a parental and a student emotion, for which I don't have an answer as a
No,
CEO. I
and
mean, honestly,
it's so unpredictable, isn't it? We're in this world of uncertainty, and it's like how do we get used to it? Because it's not going away.
just earlier today, we had this conversation. We had this interesting idea to solve for this placement problem, like the employment problem. And we just realized that that also has, like, rate limiting factors. There is a gestation to building that also. And it was unnecessarily, this new idea was putting in a lot of constraints into whatever our regular workflow is, that was taking our core team's time off the core problems that being solved and all of those things. We just have to take that hard call of, okay, we just have to, like, say, take some more grief for the next 6 months, and then probably route things the right way, as against trying to, like, uh, kind of give a
What's that?
false sense of maybe, like, your placement problems are solved. No, it's not solved. There's going to be 6 more months of grief. We just, in fact, earlier today, I had this conversation with the rest of it. We're going to, like, eat shit for 6 more months. Let's just
Yeah,
brace for that, guys, is what I said. And,
yeah.
like, shut up. And it's very hard to look at the face, but I still have to do that. And it is what it
Yeah.
is.
And that's the hard part, right? But it comes back to this because you've used this word a lot, honesty, right? It's about like just being honest and upfront and just having those conversations, having that radical candor, having those candid conversations because you can't it's there's no point in sugarcoating it. It is what it is. It's then how are we pivoting? What are we doing strategically? How does it work as with a co-founder? Like I've always like, how do you because there's two of you and have you
Mhm.
always had a co-founder in the businesses you've been in and yeah, how do you
Yeah, so Venkat and I, we were classmates at grad school,
Oh wow.
and very, very complementary skill sets. I'm the sales guy, is the rest of sales guy. That's how our whole definition has been, by and large. Uh, Very, very aligned on value system, extremely sorted on what we believe is the right thing to do in that sense. We come from very similar familial and family and value societal backgrounds, financially, economically, all of those aspects. So we grew up in similar neighborhoods too. What matters to him matters to me also in that sense. So as long as that was in place, and over the years we've also grown into arguing on problems, valuing each other's ideas, giving each other's boundaries, and backing each other up. And when we are pushed against the wall. In fact, very jocularly, my wife actually says your first wife is calling. Whenever Venkat's call comes on the phone, your first wife is calling is what she jocularly
Your business
calls.
wife, your first wife, your business wife. It's so true though, isn't it? And it's so important as co-founders because, you two set the integrity, you set the values, and if you're not aligned, what hope does the
Yeah,
business actually have? Because if they
yeah.
see that the two co-founders are like this, it can cause such a divide within the business. Like, would you not agree with
And
that?
Absolutely. And I mean, earlier parts, I mean, even during your first venture, second venture, there used to be like very, very, we both very strong-willed, very hard-headed people too. I mean, you need that sort of bullheadedness to build a business, is what I would argue. There are instances where our team will probably like say, we actually scared to which like, okay, don't get in between these two guys when they're actually having an argument. Literally, we're gonna tear each other apart. Like, obviously, I come from a place where I believe is right, and he comes from a place where he believes is right. But the good part is like everything that happens around that specific problem that you're solving. It just never gets personal.
Mm,
Even if it were to be personal, we know that it's not. It's probably the heat of the moment. It's not so much about
mm.
they would have like with any relationship, there would have been 100 instances where would have both thought that it's not worth the pain working with you. But 18 years and counting, it's not come to a point where we would have had to like revisit whether we're doing it together, right or wrong.
Yeah, wow. What about you talked around Alpha, Gen Z and the different generations, right? And obviously working with, with the students, with the people you're working with. What are you seeing in terms of, and because we've got all the different generations in, what are you seeing as, I guess, the next kind of iteration form of leadership? What are you seeing as the biggest traits coming through with these younger generations that's different to, I'm probably older than you, but different to the how we've been, trained or brought up
Right.
to lead? Like, what are you noticing as some significant differences in these
Yeah.
generations?
So I'm 43. I've got two kids, 10 and 8, and have a lot of my nephews who are like much older than my kids. At home and family, I see this multi-generational thing, tiered generational thing happening. At work, also, like my youngest colleague is probably about 19-year-old, and I have uh, senior folks who are like probably a decade older than I am. Uh, One thing what I'm seeing as a significant departure is like the generation that we grew up in. What was valued the most was diligence. I mean, the right thing to do was like work hard.
Mm,
If you had to
mm,
choose between like say working hard and working smart, it's not so much of a question. But what I see, some folks that I work with about 10 years younger to I am, the Gen Z or later or the earlier Gen Z, if I were to, they are more of, okay, it's okay to work hard, but it's necessary to like work smart, figure out what is the best and most optimal way of doing things and then go about it. But what I'm witnessing from a work perspective, or the most recent Gen Z entrance is, it doesn't matter whether it is working hard or working smart. I won't do it if I don't like it.
yeah.
What brings out, so it's a good and a bad. From my, of course, every generation has their view. I have a view. It not necessarily aligned with everybody's worldview. The good that I see about it is like they're just amazing. If they end up doing what they like doing, they just dazzle. They're like brilliance personified,
Mm,
is what it is. The only challenge as a business owner I see with that is like it is always very difficult to like say, keep giving exciting, interesting enough work all the time. So when I think about a team composition, I'll rather have a bunch of these really late Gen Z folks coming in to like dazzle, and I also have a bunch of very very stable my Gen folks, slightly younger to me, who will keep the ship steady and like keep moving
yeah,
forward.
smart.
The the smart thing to do would be the right, or rather the code to crack would be how do you manage and maintain this freedom. Like for instance, we are a 6 day work week, sort of a work system that we have.
Did you say
A lot of
six
people have
days? Is
it's
that
a 6 day work week.
Is that is that like a cultural thing in India? Like in terms of, is it
Very
yeah,
cultural
that's
thing.
what I thought.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a
sorry, yeah.
70 hours, 60, 70 hours is like a common thing.
Yeah, which is
We
pretty
also we
intense.
also have So we also have this is a very competitive, and I'm not saying it's the right or wrong thing. If my wife and I have this constant debates about this is your third venture, and you always keep saying how this is your like day one, day zero still, and how you have to like slog, and why can't somebody in your team do this, and all of those things. It's a constant battle.
Mm,
And we have known each other for like 20 years now.
mm.
We've dated for about 6 years and married for about 14 years now, 15 years now. So she's seen me grow into this as much. So the point I was trying to get back to
That's
is
good.
like,
It's good though your wife's calling out what your wife's observing as well, because it's interesting you've called that out actually. Now you can go back to your other point in a second, but I've spoken to a few people recently from India, whether in Delhi or I haven't met anyone from Bangalore yet besides yourself. But it's just
Mhm.
been this interesting insight in terms of, well, we work hard and like that's just what it is. But then your wife's saying to you, come on, like, there's family, there's that I call it life work flow. Like there's got to be a better I don't believe in balance, but there's got to be a better integration. So it's interesting to see.
Integration.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
always integration,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
so on the whole business and work front, we somehow been able to like identify people and verticalize their roles. That it's extremely exciting for them. Like the whole a majority of my direct reports, apart from my leadership team, I manage a couple of business aspects of what I run directly, oversee them. Uh, Almost everybody is like a recent grad, barring one person. It's like a 10 member team now. What we've been able to do is verticalize each of their roles so that they just keep doing the same thing, which they find interesting. And we've somehow been able to string it together so that it all is coming together as a good, nice symphony of sorts. So that's been the only hack. At the moment, I'm still calling it a hack because it's been a few quarters since we started playing it out. Whether it will become a institutionalized thing is still yet to be seen, but it is what it is.
So how does it work though? How does that work? Because like, are you constantly having to come up with ideas, like in terms of, or how does it work to keep them stimulated? Because I also wonder if it's we've got everything so at the top, like you've got your phone, you're getting
So
dopamine
keep
hits
challenging.
constantly.
So my only
Yeah.
way of doing it is like keep challenging and keep throwing different problems. How do we do this? So we have this start of day, end of day, every day, like a 10-minute ritual. Uh, and we just like there's no specific agenda. You don't report as such to what you did. You just come in and like say just talk about what happened. And we keep pushing each other on, okay, 10 people in the room, all obsessed about the same problem. There will always be newer things that keep coming up. In fact, yesterday, like last Friday, we were just talking about how we keep generating more ideas that we need like a project management tool to even track what we're doing and what we're not doing. I mean, it's just amazing how if you just let people uh, free flow with their philosophies and
Yeah,
ideas, and if
it's
they're
very
aligned to
cool.
it, they just do wonderful things, magic. I could, for the longest, I thought we just have a simple problem. We have one thing to achieve. We don't need these cool asanas of the world to project boards to like say do, but we just realized no, it probably even merits somebody just took the mantle of like, okay, figuring out what tool will we use. And the last 4 days we've been, it's like one of the biggest festivals in India, Diwali.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
a festival life. And we just resumed work today. Probably I'm hoping that the team would come back probably today, end of days, to talk about what tool we're going to use and all of those things. One thing what I've realized is uh, as long as you're going to keep telling people what to do, they're going to keep coming back to what they want about what they should do, how they should start. But as long as you've aligned them towards, not instructed, aligned them towards what are we trying to get to, I think team just runs with things. As long as I'm not like a blocker in their way in terms of either approvals needed or budgets, they just do wonderful things, is what I've realized.
Yeah, it's so interesting and it's the way forward. I was talking to someone just before about hierarchy and block, like you say, the blocking and like telling them what to do versus letting them come up with the ideas. Like this is where like you're getting it's a collective flow. Like there's it's like a chemistry that they're all creating, that's a yes and right. They're all throwing the problems out and get working with each other to be able to find the solutions, which is, couple of last questions for you. Do you think that is symptom like, do you think that is part of a startup culture? And do you think it happens in a corporate, or do you think it's more of depending on who the leader is, and like what do you think like
I
how
think it's
yeah.
the span of the team is very essential, is what I would argue.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, we keep reading a lot of books about how we can translate this same hustle and vision alignment and mission alignment and vector alignment, all those alignments notwithstanding, to be honest, the previous two ventures, as we scaled, we lost that charm of
Mm.
being that hustle and everything. So hopefully the third iteration, third rodeo, we will probably hopefully fix that and not make the same mistakes that we did the previous. I mean, we scaled fast the first venture. Probably for a training company, hitting a four-digit headcount is crazy and insane and probably not tenable is what I would argue today. But
Mm.
back in the day, we were just like signing up customers. We just needed people. We just like went on a blitzkrieg, and all of this is bootstrapped and whatever, right? We just went about doing it. And looking back, probably the biggest challenge was like we didn't truly institutionalize collaborative working and a lot of
Yeah.
things in terms of
Mm.
radical candor. It was very political. After a point, it got very political.
Mm.
I mean, as a CEO, I always wanted to be approachable to everybody. There's no sir calling anybody sir as a culture. From day one, this is something what we've been very mindful about. But today, when I talk to my colleagues in my first business, I still, my Venkat and I, we still own the business. It doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
It's almost like a very stratified sort of a thing. Second venture, we exited to a US-based entity that acquired our stakes and that was their India GTM play. So I'm not actively involved in that, but at least in Kalvium, we're very conscious that we want to keep maintaining this openness, collaborative mindset. Of course, we have challenges. We're not like big tech where we can throw a lot of big bucks to attract the best of talent, so to speak of. Uh, we're trying to figure out, honestly, 4 years in, almost 300 people in headcount.
Wow. That's
We're still
huge.
trying, still trying to figure out how to keep that energy, keep the flow going.
Yeah.
Some parts of the business are working beautifully, where the flow is really optimum in terms of how things get
Yeah.
done, how everybody collaborates. But there are these other parts which are not, and that's the journey that we're in now. Probably this year, in fact, is more of a consolidation year where we want to, again, for the scale, for the business problem, we have scaled way too fast, is what we reflected in June. And we've just kind of, okay, we're going to pause now. We're going to not repeat the same mistakes of the previous 12 years of building businesses. And
And look at the
last few months
foundation.
have been around the
Yeah. Get those
strengthen the
foundations.
foundation,
Mm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how do you truly, meaningfully build a hopefully a generational enterprise with all the right things that we can do and enjoy doing rather.
I love it. One last question for you.
Yeah.
What would you, yeah, I guess what would you say? What's my question? I've got too many questions to ask you, and I'm trying to work out whether I ask it from a, what would be one piece of advice you would give a Gen Alpha, for example, who was, starting out and was wanting to, what would you, if you were like, what would a piece of advice would you give yourself if you were a Gen Alpha? Does that make sense
Oh, okay.
when it comes
Yeah,
to
yeah, got
business?
it. What do
Does
I
that make
tell my
sense? I'm a
younger
little bit
version?
like,
What will I tell my younger version if
yeah,
I had to meet them today, 20 years? Okay, oh, how interesting. Okay. I think I'll tell myself if I, let's say I were to meet my 20-year-old self today, I would probably tell that things will just fall in place. You just need to trust your gut and keep going deeper into whatever rabbit hole you're climbing.
yeah, I love
Because I
it.
think for far too much, I just made way too many safe choices.
Yeah,
From an external perspective, probably it still thinks very maverick. You started your own venture, you built, you scaled, whatever. You're still in the top 0.1% of the country by whatever means and everything. But honestly, if I were to like meet my younger self, I'll tell myself it's okay what the rest of the world thinks and says. If your gut says you should just keep going
I agree.
and keep building. It's probably just a matter of time before it becomes something uh, super tectonic and amazingly wonderful. Don't really try to find patterns and see precedents of if this has worked or not. Uh, I wish I was more maverick than what I have been.
Love
I
it.
would say though.
I love it. And I've got one last question because I think that you raised a point around your wife and her going, when are you going to, you said this was, like, you said you were going to slow it down in the last venture and you're in this venture. If there's one thing that you could do right now as a CEO and obviously founder, co-founder and CEO, that would allow your wife to be able to go, oh, Raj has actually allocated a bit more time to family, and I'm not suggesting you don't, but for example, if there's one thing that you could subtract from your day to
Mhm.
day, and your wife would be like, oh my gosh, he's actually doing what I've been asking him, what would it be?
Okay. Interesting that we speak. You asked me this, and it's exactly the point of conversation that we had just this weekend.
There's
So
my
Bangalore,
intuition.
you probably have it spot on, V. So Bangalore, the reality of Bangalore as a city is extremely trafficy. It's just way too many people on the road, and my workplace and my home is about 17, 18 kilometers apart.
Yeah.
On a normal, regular working day, if let's say I were to leave home at 8, it'll take me an hour and a half. If it is
Wow.
quarter past 8, it'll take me 2 hours. And just to circumvent this, I've also taken like a fully furnished place right next to my office so that I don't have to like waste 4 hours a day on commute. If there's one thing that she were to, if what will probably make her day, if I were to go back and say that, look, I'm gonna like say shift my office to next to our house because she moving out of her house and the ecosystem is not happening because our kids go to school there. The
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
life is built around that, and she wouldn't want any disruption. She would just love the idea that I start working from home, or probably like say have another office set up right next to our off home, and then probably do that. I mean, we're trying to figure out what part of it is practical possible. Probably find some place which is midway between our current house and where I work and all of
Amazing.
those things. But that's the one thing. I mean, very coincidentally
Yeah.
that we were just talking about this weekend.
But it's cool, Raj, because but because you probably wouldn't have done that in your last venture, right? And now here you are, you're starting to think about things differently, and everything we've talked about on this show today is
Right.
this is the new world order, right? Like, and you called it out we're on borrowed time. And so here you are working through what could it practically look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
From a family perspective. So I absolutely love it. How do we find out more about you? How do we find out more about Kalvium? Where do we go?
Okay. Well, okay. My LinkedIn is pretty active. I talk my heart out, and there's no fluff there too. Of course, I do take the help of AI to like say fine tune what my thoughts are. Bit lazy that way. Rather than writing a 200, 250 word post, I'd rather give those
Yeah,
20-word prompts for
yeah,
Claude and ChatGPT to help me
yeah, I love
reframe
it.
those things. But yeah, most of what my thoughts, what we do is all on my LinkedIn website, very accessible. Anybody who wants to have a
Awesome.
chat, I on a weekly basis spend 30, 40 minutes a piece with 3, 4 entrepreneurs who want to solve the problems. There are so many instances that I've been through personally. I'm happy to uh, help founders. It's all paying forward because
Love it. You're
whatever,
amazing.
whatever, whatever positions or other accomplishments we've had is all thanks to thousands of people helping us to get to this point
Yeah.
in our journey. And it's only fair I pay it forward. That's how I view it. So accessible on LinkedIn, yeah, very, very, very fast to
Thank you
respond
so
to.
much. Right, it's been such an amazing chat, and we've been flowing. There's been no fluff, even from a Bee Formless perspective. We're all about the subject of psychology and getting to what's important, and like not forgetting that life leadership and business is interconnected, and it's like
Absolutely.
how do we reshape it for the future and all the generations that are coming through the line, so that we are able to embrace every moment because we just never know what's
Absolutely.
around the corner, right?
for good measure, will probably have like 10,000 more days. Probably most of the people will have anywhere between 10 to 30,000 days
Yeah,
more
I
to
know.
go.
I know. So
Why
we,
is why categorize, why separate,
yeah,
be the best version of who you can be? Not
yeah,
that there are not going to be any ups and downs and lows and highs and all of them. Enjoy every moment of it. You need to probably embrace the hards to really cherish the wins.
yeah.
That's been a philosophy, and it's truly held me in good stead. Thank you
Amazing.
so much. You've been an
No,
amazing host, B. Truly have to congratulate you for this initiative. Uh, Wishing you the very best and hope this was like relevant and use to you as well. Thanks
yeah,
so much for having me
absolutely
over.
super.
Truly
No,
appreciate
super,
this.
super chat. So thank you so much.
And it,
Have a great afternoon, and yeah,
yeah, yeah.
thank you.
And if ever your travels do bring you to India, allow us to play host to you. Would love to have you over.
Thank
Yeah,
you. I do want to get to India. I've never been. Can you believe it? And it's
you should.
on my list. So absolutely watch
You
this
should.
space.
You
Watch this
should.
space. Thank you, Raj. I
Thanks
truly
so much. Bye
appreciate it.
bye.
Thank you.